Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to FreeThinker's Fireside. My name is Helen, also known as House Bells, and this is a show where we put the human and humanist, one cozy conversation at a time. My guest this week is the person that I love to blame for everything, because I don't have a god, so I might as well make one up to blame for everything that goes wrong. My friend Greg James from the Atheist community of Austin. So let's all say hi to Greg. Hi, Greg.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Good. Usually what happens is that like if people trickle in because I haven't figured out how to do like a timing thing yet. But I will figure that out eventually.
We'll talk after. I'll show
in.
you how to pre-schedule and do all the stuff. It's not a problem.
Yay, that'd be great. I need smart people.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, I know.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you're smart-ish.
Okay, I'll take that. Yeah.
Of course, yeah, that's the most important thing. You're smart-ish. Okay, so hi everybody. I hope you're having a great week. They usually trickle in a few minutes because a bunch of our dorky friends are going to show up. So
yeah, that's fine.
So why don't you tell the wonderful people out in YouTube land, hi Rob, who you are, what you do, how do we know each other all, and why you want to talk about what you wanted to talk about today.
All right, no pressure, clearly. So yes, I am Greg James. I am the executive producer of the Atheist community of Austin. We primarily put on a series of web shows on YouTube. The best known of them being the Atheist Experience. However, we also put on shows Truth Wanted, Talk Heathen, and the Nonprofits, of which our very own Helen is a frequent contributor. So that is good. Yeah, I've been with the ACA for 4.5 years now. In this capacity, started as a volunteer and then kind of merged into being into the regular position that I'm in right now. When I first talked to Helen about coming on the show, we were kind of trying to figure out what the hell I was even going to talk about. So the thing that I came up with was kind of the pros and the cons of kind of online atheist activism, specifically kind of the format that we're in right now, which is doing shows, having conversations, things of that sort. So I would never call myself a quote unquote expert in the field. I would say that my time in the position has kind of exposed me to a certain amount of experience, which I feel that I can kind of talk about to some level. But yeah, I kind of feel like it's one of the topics that I do have. Like I said, I do have some experience in. So hoping we'll have a good conversation and yeah, so there we go.
So that's Greg.
Yes.
That's Greg. So why did you want to talk about this topic?
It's kind of twofold. Part of it is we talked to a lot of people in the course of what we do. We have a lot of people who contact the ACA interested in volunteering, specifically interested in being hosts or something along those lines. And I kind of wanted to be able to talk about what that kind of looks like, what the commitment to doing it is, and what the maybe what the expectations, maybe what the upsides, and maybe what the downsides of that might be. So, yeah, I fully, just on the outset, I fully support anybody who kind of has that sort of a aspiration to do this sort of thing. So I think your wonderful, and that's probably the last time I'll say you're wonderful tonight, Helen. But,
I know. Don't touch me. You want to stroke my ego.
yes. You don't need any help with that. But
I don't know. My ego takes up this whole fucking room, man.
There we go. But yeah, I do get a lot of questions, kind of from people who either want to be a host and maybe aren't sure whether or not they are kind of qualified or knowledgeable enough to be it. And then hopefully just share some of the things that I can to maybe inspire them to join the online community of activists. And then maybe outline some of the kind of pitfalls that you might expect to find along the way. So.
Okay, so why don't we talk? Well, we'll start with the positives first. So why don't we talk about the pros? We'll start there.
Yeah. The kind of the biggest pro, and one of the reasons why I'm kind of interested in being the position and doing the things that I do here, is that there still exists in this country and in many respects across the world this misunderstanding of what it is to be a non-believer, or more specifically to be an atheist. I've gotten the comments from people, or I've seen things where there is just a complete and utter misrepresentation of what our position is, what we are, what we do, what we stand for. It's a lot of the classics that if you are an atheist, you've kind of heard before, that you either hate God, or you think God isn't real, or any number
of the second part of that statement is true. We don't think God is real.
Well, I mean, I'm saying you think he doesn't exist. I should say it rather.
Yeah.
As opposed to just that he's not real. But yeah, the kind of thing that I'm most interested in is kind of re-educating people by example, as far as what it is an atheist is, and what it is an atheist does, and how they behave, and what they're really about. And I think that really comes through a lot in a lot of the stuff that we do on our shows. So as far as wanting to do the show, I think the biggest piece of advice I think I can give anybody who is maybe interested in this, but they're not sure if they could do it, is just do it. I mean, just start something, take some action, put yourself out there. Almost everybody, and I've had the pleasure of talking to a lot of the hosts that you see on a lot of our shows. I mean, theoretically, I guess I talked to all of them, but many of them have expressed this kind of sentiment that if they have their own channels and they were doing their own things, if they've been doing this for a while, they'll often go back and look at like some of those really first videos, and almost unanimously, everybody is really cringing at the things they did and the things they said and the way they acted on screen, because they didn't have necessarily the experience to do the show. They were kind of awkward. And I think all of that is absolutely worthwhile. It teaches you through the experience of doing it, how to kind of refine your skills, refine your presentation, refine the way that you speak to people and speak about things. So, I mean, that's one of the things that I think is really important, to just kind of put yourself out there and do it. Don't expect to be the next Helen Green and just be an absolute professional right off the bat. You're going to make mistakes. I mean, it's going to happen. But
God, please don't strive to be me. You're going to be woefully disappointed.
Yeah,
but I do agree, because like I watched my first episode on secular sexuality. That was my first like any sort of online appearance, and I'm just like, oh girl. Like,
yeah.
You know, and now it's old hat. Like I started this channel after 2 to 3 years of doing activism through the ACA and recovering from religion. So once after a while, it just becomes a second nature, how you present yourself, how you ask questions, how you interview people. And obviously I've improved on other things, but a lot of it was just being careful how I use my language and not repeat things. And also because when you're nervous, you tend to repeat a lot of things, especially when you're trying to fill space, but also as well when you're communicating, to let your own personality shine through and not put yourself like, I need to be like, Johnny Angel, or I need to be like this person. You have to find your own voice within, within the masses, because like you can only be yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one thing I do encourage on our hosts. And that's why we have I think we have currently the most number of hosts on all of our shows that we've ever had. But I think that's a valuable tool because each host will present their point of view and the thing that they want to say kind of in their own unique manner. I'm not looking for 8 versions of an Objectively Dan or 8 versions of a Forrest Valkai. I'm looking for that disparity of opinions, because each one of those kind of approaches will generally appeal to a certain segment of our audience. Some people might not like the and I say this with all love and compassion, the way that secularity tends to drone on a little bit and go on these very long diatribes on things. Some people absolutely enjoy that, and then we get comments like, "Oh, that guy never shuts up" or whatever. But then we have other hosts.
As someone that likes to drone on, I appreciate like me and Ellen have made fun of each other for our ability to talk.
Yeah. But yeah, I think each one of those individuals brings something unique that part of our audience will actually identify with or be receptive to. So, but yeah, I think it's mostly what I'm looking to do. And the primary thing is just kind of normalize atheism in society, because there's nothing like I don't think there's any more effective way to change the mind of like a religious person or a theist or something like that than to actually listen to an atheist speak, because a lot of them have never heard it in their lives. Their only exposure to what an atheist is what their religious leader told them. And then it's usually the whole baby eating, Satan worshiping, terrible people who just don't want God so they can go and murder and steal and all that good stuff.
Of course.
So I think getting yourself out there, talking to people, kind of tends to break down those stereotypes, especially when if you are talking to somebody else and they have the ability to kind of get that experience with you, and it causes that thought in their mind to say, well, they're supposed to be evil people, but I talked to this person for 20 minutes and they're not evil. So is that really a thing? Or am I mistaken about it? So, and I think that's kind of one of the best things we can try to relay if you're going to be in this kind of sphere and doing activism. So, oh, well, now I have to say something about Dr. Ben, because he's being wise in the chat here.
Now that he's here.
But, so yeah, I think that's definitely one of the biggest pros on it. And again, it gets you out there. It develops skills in communication skills that you can use in the rest of your life, because once you've kind of been here under pressure, it's much less pressure. And me saying this because I'm almost never in front of this camera. So a little bit of pressure for me to be under camera, but you can take the same skills, apply them to your everyday life, and be able to have good conversations with people. So.
And it's one of those things that like you learn to develop over time. It's not something you're gonna like automatically know how to do, how to communicate. Like I didn't like I've been doing the ACA TikTok for a year now, and which I was really surprised when I thought about it the other day. I was like, holy crap. But at the beginning, like I was a little bit not uncomfortable talking to people, but I wasn't sure how to like do it like one-on-one, because especially since I don't have a time limit. But now like I was on for 3 hours on Tuesday, and I had a couple of really good conversations with theists, and they kept saying like, one thing I get a lot is like, wow, you're really nice, and like I usually atheists are assholes, and I'm like, no, we're not. I go, you just happen to not talk to one that was being toxic and a jerk to you. Like, because we're diverse as anybody else. Like there's plenty of religious people that are, you know, buttheads. Absolutely. You know, so but I think that they see like the, you know, the angry atheist people and the people that haven't, you know, kind of found that balance that, you know, you get after years of being like, you know, out, and you're just like, well, you know, like I'm angry at religious institutions because they keep, you know, screwing people over, but I'm not mad at like religious people, you know, I'm just mad at institutions, you know, because it's very easy for me to be mad at an institution.
Yeah. Like, I get it. So, but yeah, I mean,
hi, chat.
Hello, chat. Hey, Kelly is here, the very famous Kelly Laughlin. And
Kelly Laughlin. Yeah, it's the ACA people. Like Glenn is here, Ben is here, Jimmy Jr.'s here.
We don't talk about Glenn in kind
we
words.
Don't talk. No, we don't. We don't. So. He's kind of like Fight Club.
There we go. Yeah, we don't talk about him.
We don't talk about Glenn. So how did you, other than applying for, you started volunteering with the ACA before you moved up into a production role, right?
I did. And technically I never applied or asked for this position.
They just gave it to you.
Yeah, I volunteered. I started volunteering about 5-ish years ago. I came in quite in a timely manner right before COVID really kicked in. But yeah, I just came in as a volunteer. I didn't even come in to do production work. I came in from being a web programmer and looking at the horrendous state of the ACA website and thinking I could probably make this a little bit better. So that's what kind of what I approached the ACA with, and then found out they had already kind of started working with a company to improve it. So I said, okay, I guess. And then happened to be there for one of the shows, and they said, hey, you want to come in and look at the studio or the crew room, like they generally do for anybody there. And I started looking around, and I noticed some of the programs they were using, like Wirecast, like some of the other stuff that they were using was stuff that I used in my position as a programmer. So started asking them questions about it, got a little bit more involved with it. And they said, well, we can always kind of use additional people in here. So that's kind of how I started, and went along for a little while. And then there were circumstances where the person who was in the position before me had to kind of step away for a while. At that point, I kind of picked up a little bit more. I started doing almost every show. And at that point, we were doing 5 shows, because Secular Sexuality was still active. So we did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. And for a little while, I was doing every single show. And
that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And then I guess at a certain point where it was determined that the other person wasn't coming back, I kind of got this very mysterious message from Vern, who is our very own Lord of Levels, and all hail Vern. He's just a wonderful person. But got a weird, mysterious call to join him with the ACA board, and I'm like, oh shit, what did I do? It wasn't me. It was somebody else. I didn't screw it up. And then I went in, and I guess they said that's where they kind of offered me the position, and under the understanding that you're kind of already doing everything that the person in this position would do, we might as well just go ahead and officially hire you to do it. So
All right.
it was great
You were
for me.
voluntold.
Well, kind of, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was completely by surprise. I didn't expect to be offered that, and I actually had to think about it a day or two because effectively I was doing fairly well for myself as a programmer, and the switch to do this job would have meant effectively about a 50% pay cut for me. But when I thought about it, I originally started in California, so I had twice the cost of living. I was in Texas now, lower cost of living, didn't need to make as much. And it was a position that I kind of felt put me in a place to make somewhat of a difference in people's lives, because I know how affected I was by the shows, and I know I'm not the only one. So I kind of went ahead and decided to take it, and to a large extent, I guess, haven't looked back from there. So
no, I think that's great. Like, that you were such a valuable member. They're like, hey, let's give him money. He can join the crew and do work, which like, and it's kind of funny because like, I like when we're calling for volunteers at Recovering from Religion or at the ACA, it's like you don't have to be on camera. You can if you want to, but or you don't, like for Recovering from Religion, you don't have to be helpline agent. But if you have a talent, like I'm gonna just, hey, if you want to volunteer for the ACA or Recovering from Religion, the Atheist Community of Austin, if you go to the website, atheist-community.org, there's an online application. If you go to recoveringfromreligion.org, there's an online application to be volunteers. And I volunteer for both and been doing that for 4 years now. Yep. And it is based on your talents. Like, what do you want to do? I get online and I yell at people. So that's what I do. Or I tell people that like I try to help them through like their deconversion journey, or I'm shilling other people's stuff. But because I'm very good at talking, but also too, it just depends on what your talents are. Like because there's people that can do website development, can do app development, can help with the biggest thing at the AC, writing notes.
Yes, right now that is a thing.
Yeah, if you want to write notes for the show, and because I did that for a little bit, but I got busy, and I feel bad. I honestly do, but I got busy. But we need note writers at the ACA. So I will shill. I have no problem shilling.
Hey, it's your show. If anybody's going to do it, you might as well do it. So.
I will. I will shill on my own show for other shows. I will shill on for other people's shows. Yeah. Because the biggest thing, and I think also in this community, which is a pro, is that we're all very supportive of each other, of each other's content and what everybody's doing. And I think that there's not really a competition going on, because I'm always like, if somebody has a channel that they're launching, because they're going to be doing different stuff than I'm doing here. The ACA is doing something different than I'm doing here. We have to support each other because like, it's one of those things that community is really important. That's the thing that we're always talking about, of how important community is when you leave religion.
Mm-hmm. I would absolutely agree with that. And yeah, that's kind of a kind of unspoken mantra here, because we have so many volunteers, and a lot of the volunteers have their own presence on YouTube or TikTok or wherever it happens to be. And we're of the mindset that we really do kind of go by that that saying that a rising tide will raise all ships. So if we can have more voices talking about what it is that we all kind of commonly hold as important, again, it's just spreading the message a little bit wider. It's reaching more people, and it's ultimately reaching the goals that we're trying to achieve. So,
Absolutely. Okay, so before we move on to cons,
okay.
all right. Can you, off the top of your head, is there any pros that you missed?
It's mostly, like I said, it's mostly getting the message across, normalizing atheism, and kind of that professional or not professional, that personal development of your own. Becoming a better communicator simply by practicing and doing it. You can read about it, you can watch videos about it, but until you actually sit in the seat and turn on the camera and turn on the stream, it's all very theoretical up to that point. Once you start doing it, you get better at it, and you can then translate that across into a lot of things in the rest of your life. So,
Yeah, I mean that was the thing. I was like, well, I might as well take the plunge.
yep.
And I've definitely improved over time, which has been great, because I will go back. Even now, I will go back and watch myself to be like, oh, I could have said this differently. I could have done this, because it's a constant thing that you're doing, is constantly improving on how you want to present yourself when you're on a public forum,
Mhm.
And I think that's really, really important. And you're going to cringe. You're going to be like, especially if you look at your early stuff, you're going to be like, oh my God. Because people that you watch on YouTube that have been doing this a while, and you think that they didn't go through awkward, go watch their early videos. Like, go watch the first couple videos they presented. Go watch their first streams. It's going to be awkward and weird.
Yes, it will be. Absolutely. So.
Okay, so let's move on to cons.
Okay.
Let's talk about the negatives. We're a balanced show.
Hey,
We're fair and balanced, like Fox News.
Well, I think that's like the whole sentence is an oxymoron, I feel like, but I mean, yeah, I'll agree to not say that myself, I guess.
Well, they're an entertainment channel,
there we go.
Technically, so
they are entertaining to a certain segment of our population. So I will validate that one. Cons get into a little bit of a sticky area because I guess I'll start with the least offensive ones, I guess, and I'll move on and see, and maybe see how far we get with them. But one of the cons is that if you are walking into this with the expectation that, oh, it's all really easy, I just turn on a camera and I just speak and everything just works out absolutely perfectly, I think you're in for an immense amount of disappointment, because it takes a lot of work, irregardless of the scale, to do this sort of thing. You have preparation beforehand. You have the execution of it. Oftentimes, if you are a smaller channel, you are not only the host of the show, but you are actually the engineer running the cameras. You are the person setting everything up. You're the person doing kind of whatever marketing you can do to kind of get yourself out there, get yourself known. So it's not a thing that you can just kind of, I'm on camera and hey, what the hell? I'm done. My job is done here. You do the whole Vegas dealer, like, I'm done. That's all I have to do. And I think if you're walking into that way, I think you're going to be very short-lived on being able to do this. So, and that's kind of the least controversial one of the.
That's like the smallest
thing. I'm working my way up to the ones that'll get me canceled again. So
right, exactly. That's why you get canceled.
I guess one of the ones, and I guess I'll just dive right into it, is that one of the things I guess I see is that on a lot of these shows, or a lot of these channels that are atheist channels, they tend to be fairly critical, especially of thought processes of theists. But what I often see is an atheist who will fall into that same sort of process just on a different subject, meaning that atheists will generally consider themselves to be very skeptical, very
Thanks,
logical,
Amber.
very yeah. Thanks, Amber.
Yeah, we're all part of the cancel club.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna give it. We need a T-shirt.
yeah. I wish I'd planned a little bit better. I could have worn the T-shirt tonight, but no, I think and I've experienced it myself where where people will be kind of critical of religious people kind of not employing skeptical thought to examine what their beliefs are. And yet and still, I will also find other people, and it's not necessarily it's not always the people in front of the camera. It's a lot of times it is the people watching the show that I notice it on, I guess, the most. And it turns into this cult of personality where I say smart things and you agree with the smart things that I say. So when I say something that isn't necessarily evidential or isn't backed up by some sort of corroboration, it's tend to be believed in that same way. I think it is a kind of a human nature thing where we start to put our trust in people who are expressing the thoughts that we are expressing, and maybe when they go on to other things, we're not as critical in evaluating those things as well. So I think it's one of the things I think is people in the position don't necessarily evaluate themselves as good as they need to. And I think that's a really necessary thing that needs to be happening. You're saying like you're going back, looking at, and I think it's a valuable tool to go back, anybody who's doing this, to go back, look at the things you produce. Look at where you could have said, not just where you could have said something better or you could have explained something better, but look at the statements that you are making. Are you making statements that can be justified with evidence? And are you providing evidence in some fashion, whether it is doing it and or making a statement and then providing the evidence on the statement, or you make the statement and then you come back after the video is over and you could provide foot links or footnotes to go corroborate kind of the things that you're saying. And unfortunately, a lot of times it is just, I find people are not necessarily doing that. So I think the con is kind of, we tend to fall into the same sort of things that we criticize religious people for doing and don't recognize those same tendencies to do it on the things that we're saying. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, well, I think that like it's like it like I've heard other content people that have been doing this a while, that especially when you leave religion and you let go, you think that if you enter the atheist community, you're going to have like this very reasonable, non-biased, critical thinkers, and that's not reality. Like we are emotional, irrational meatbags, and we all have our own hubris's. We're tribal. We will tend to forgive each other for things that we would not allow that grace and forgiveness to other people that are not in our circle. And everybody is, can fall guilty of this, and it's okay because we're human. But also at the same time, it's just like, there have been people that I supported in this community, and then I found out that they were buttheads, and I couldn't support them anymore because I was just like,
you can say my name, Helen. It's okay. You can say my name.
Because yes, it was Greg. Greg was like, I hate queer people, and I was like, well, okay, Greg, well, we can't be friends anymore.
Great, there's a soundbite.
Yes, exactly. Please do not cut this out. Oh my god. Then I'll have to go into the webs and be like, no, I didn't. But and that's the thing when we're, and also too, if you go back in your earlier content and there was a take you had that's changed, it's okay. And also too, even in your current content, if you misspeak or you say something, you're like, oh, I thought you thought you're correct on something, and then somebody corrects you, just go, even if you can't edit the video, just go in your doobly doo and be like, hey, this was misspoken. This is the actual thing, whatever that is. It's okay to admit your mistakes. But I think that, especially on online presence, and also I think that in this community, we want to be like the super smart people. We're all based on evidence and facts.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes, we are. But also we're going to say things wrong, or we're going to hear something that we thought was a good source, and we just take it on, and then we just spout it out like it's, gospel, lack of a better word. And then we find out later. But I think that having that hubris to admit that you are wrong, I think that serves you a lot, because I'm like religious, if we want to be better than religious people, and claim that we have the truth, we also can be like, we always say, I don't know, but you also have to admit when you're wrong. Yeah. And be okay with admitting that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I see that Jimmy Jr. Issued that he was guilty of that. But to Jimmy's credit, I know there might have been one or two times where he said something on air, and maybe it didn't register with him at the time, but people have brought this up and saying, hey, dude, you're wrong. And I respect Jimmy for having kind of the guts to come back on later on and say, hey, you guys, I said this thing. I was absolutely wrong. I acknowledge I was wrong. And I thank you for doing that. I think that, I won't say it's unique to our community, but I think it's much more common in like a non-believers or skeptical person's community, because we're already not appealing to some overall authority that always has to be right. We're appealing to our own sense of intelligence and knowledge and things of that sort. So to be able to come back on and say, hey, I screwed this up. I'm sorry. Thank you for pointing it out to me. I think that's a much more genuine and a much more responsible thing to do than double down and say, oh, well, I said this thing, but I was still technically right because of X, Y, and Z. So I wasn't really wrong. I mean, maybe just didn't say it perfectly, but I was still right. And I hear a lot of that kind of from the other side. So
Kelly.
Oh my God, Kelly. I think the only person that makes fun of himself more than I do might be Kelly.
Yeah, he does. And he's also self-appreciating and doesn't think he contributes as much as he does, but he is one of the most, I wouldn't be involved in where I am now if it wasn't for Kelly, honestly. Yes. So absolutely. He is very good at spotting out talent and voices that need to be heard. And so I'm just going to shout out to Kelly, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have got involved with the ACA. So it's all Kelly's fault.
Yep. Absolutely. So, and I guess we're going to go up the scale of cancelability here.
Okay, let's go. I'm sure with the over 100 subscribers I have, I'm waiting for the YouTube algorithm to be like, that's a bad person.
I think this is the first live show I've done. We'll find out if it's the last live show I ever do. But
you're going to be on RFR, so
I'm going to be RFR, and actually on the 18th, I'm going to be in the cut for Black Non-Believers. So,
that's cool.
So yeah. But
Yay.
All right, so let's see if I can cancel that appearance here.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll let sit.
I think the next thing, and it might be
you fuck up.
hey, I wouldn't put it past me.
Oh,
I think kind of the next thing, and it might be one of the most important things, is determining why you're doing this. I absolutely would respect somebody, and I think it's true of all of the hosts that we have on our show right now. Kind of witnessed by the fact that none of these people who are hosting our shows get paid to do it. They're coming in, volunteering their own time, becoming involved to various degrees. But I feel like almost all the hosts we have on our show are coming in here because this is an important topic to them. It is something that they hold dear. It's something that they're hoping to, in their own way, contribute to making a change for the better. That would be kind of juxtaposed against somebody who is wanting to come in this and do it purely for the sake of attention, or purely because they think they can do it and they can jump in and make a whole bunch of money and be controversial, kind of be an asshole, and people will love them for it. It's a little refreshing that I can say what I'm about to say, but yeah, our current political environment, and I can say this because you're not a 501c3 and I'm not on one of my own shows. So
yeah, you can totally talk about it.
But yeah, political environment right now, I mean, you've got somebody who's being an absolute piece of crap, and people follow him because
you can swear too, Greg. You can swear.
I know. I'm working up to it.
I'm just telling you.
I'll go.
Okay,
I'll go on a full profanity
a
tirade and get you.
Yeah, this is the foreplay for swearing.
There we go.
Okay, go.
But no, I mean, like I said, the majority of everybody that we have right now on our shows, I think, really holds to that they're trying to make a change. I think I'd be lying, and I will not name names, but I think some of the people that we've had in the past are more concerned about their own ego, their own career, than they are about kind of fulfilling the mission of the ACA. I wouldn't necessarily down talk the contributions that they made. I think a lot of people, all of our hosts in different capacities, have made really good contributions. But at a certain point, I was starting to feel like people who are kind of no longer working with us chose to make the promotion of themselves more important than anything they were doing on the show. And I think that's one of the biggest indicators of when maybe they were going to move on. When it was more important for them to have the camera time and have people tell them how wonderful they are than to talk about the issues that we're talking about. And I think, so I think you need to go into this, and I think not everybody goes into this kind of realm with the best. Well, I'm not going to say the best of intentions, because making money is not a bad thing. Getting attention in and of itself is not a bad thing. But if you're presenting yourself as an advocate for this thing when you're really an advocate pretty much only for yourself, is a little bit disingenuous, in my opinion. So
I think that, like, when I started doing activism online, I was really started doing it because I thought that I had something to say, but especially the more work that I do, and I see how people respond to the positivity that we do, and also as well that for people that can't be out, for people that have these thoughts and they want to get away from toxic ideas, we are a space for them. And especially if we're a 501c3, you have to separate your ego. Like, yes, we all do, but like nobody does, like nobody's completely altruistic. Like, I love listening to myself talk, and I think that I have some very good takes and opinions that I would like to share with other people, whether you agree with me or not. I don't care. I just like attention. But the overall mission is that I want people to know, like, as a woman, as a queer person, and as an atheist, that it's okay. Like, you can choose your own life. You can make the world, you can be the person that you want to be without anyone else telling you how you have to be. And I think that's really, really important in these spaces. The more diversity you have and the more those voices get out there, that's the more important thing. If you're like, if you have a channel, like, I would love to get monetized. Maybe I'll reach 500 subscribers and I get monetized. That'd be great. And then I can get merch and then make a little bit of extra money. But that's not why I started this channel.
I'm sure that now I've been on the show and everybody quote unquote loves me. It'll happen in like the next couple of weeks. Don't worry about
fuck it. You, Al. Get Greg on. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But like,
no, go ahead.
That's the more important part. Like, why, like, I think that, why do you want to get involved in activism? Is it for other people? Like, yes, like cost benefit, like, yes, you want to do it because you want to do it and you feel it's positive narcissism. Like, you know, you have to be a little bit narcissistic to put yourself out there. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because positive narcissism is an actual thing in psychology, that you have enough hubris to realize that, oh, you know what, I'm not the only person, and I'm willing to accept, like, you know, feedback, but I have enough confidence to say, like, please listen to me. So
yeah, I get that. And
it's when that positive narcissism turns into real narcissism, and then you turn into a butthead.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can still be a butthead and not be a total narcissist. No, not necessarily.
That's true.
Talking about present company, but I mean, in a theoretical sense, I guess you could.
I mean, I can't be a butthead. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, we both are. I think we're both guilty on that one.
There isn't money. Amber's telling me there isn't money in monetization. I'm like, then how do I get merch, Amber?
You have to get sponsored by some company that's willing to, like, throw money at you to say nice things about them. I think that's how that works.
That's true. Yeah, I need to I don't know, like, get a sponsor, like, eventually. I don't fucking care. Like, it's too much work. Because then I have to be beholden to sponsors, and like I just want merch. If I could get to merch, like, and I can also people that I know that are artist creators that I could collaborate with, that would be even better. To create merch, because then they would get a cut, and then it would be a community thing. That would be better.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat.
Side note, that's future stuff. Anyway, Greg, keep going.
Yeah. I was just saying, I'm looking at the chat, and infidels pondering who I'm specifically talking about, and
I have no idea.
I will say that this is not. It's more of a collection of individuals than it is any particular individual, because while the vast
there's been a couple.
Well, there's been actually several. Some might just get more attention than others, but
I didn't talk to Tangiel about shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Stories Tangiel could tell would get us both canceled immediately.
We're gonna get us both canceled.
No, this is more. It's more. What I'm talking about is about several people if I had to put a number to it, I'm thinking 4 to 5 to 6 people who have kind of fallen into this same sort of thing where, and I don't believe they necessarily came to us with this intention that, oh, it's going to be all about me. I think they came and they were enamored with the thought of what it is we do, but possibly at the expense of their own notoriety or their own success going through things. Things seem to have changed from I'm here for the mission to, well, I'll talk about the mission, but I'm really here to more self-promote or promote things that are not even relevant to the conversations that we have. So it's not there are definitely people on my mind right now, and I will not indicate anybody.
We're not going to talk shit about other people.
No, especially with them not in the room. So that's
right. We don't do. We're adults here, people. Like we do that in private chats.
Well, I try to be an adult, but you know, I do what I can.
Well, and also too, like I think that, and like this is my thing about. To be fair, I don't know someone's inner life, and I don't know their inner dialogue. I don't know what their perception is, and though my perception might be that you're, this is a very ego-driven thing for you, and follow-up actions might prove that. I still don't know what your real motivation is. And for me to say what that motivation is, it would be disingenuous because I don't know somebody else's mind. Yeah. I cannot agree with what they're doing, but I don't want to make statements about a person that I don't really know what is going on in their head. Yeah. Because I don't have all the information. Even when it's me and I'm involved in another situation, I don't always have all the information. So we have to be careful how we talk about these things, especially even with people that we disagree with and may have left some bad blood behind or whatever. We have to be careful how we talk about people because we don't always know what their perception is, even if we disagree with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that's another reason why I don't particularly want to bring up individuals. It's more the concept of sometimes people get into this for what I believe might be the wrong reasons. And my reasons don't necessarily constitute the rule book on why you should or should not do it. I think it's completely and utterly valid for people to come in and want to make this their career, so they will do it. I feel like if you want to take the concept and make it all about entertainment rather than anything else, I mean, it's your channel. You have the access to do that, and I won't begrudge you for it. I guess my thing is maybe presenting yourself as somebody who is for the cause when it is really, I guess, not being honest about it. And I guess to a certain extent, I don't know how honest you can be, because if people say, yeah, I just want your money, then you start sounding like a televangelist effectively. But so yeah, I guess that's my biggest kind of pet peeve, or my biggest kind of downside on the activism is you run across people who move away from the message and basically make it all about themselves. So
like for example, like Seth makes money, that's like his activism is also his job.
Yeah.
But if you like talk to Seth for 5 minutes, you find out he's a big old sweet potato.
Yes.
Like, because I even told him when I met him in person last year at Free Flow, and I said he was like not so much like the controversial people, like the neckbeards, during the mid 2010s, where it was a bunch of like neckbeards that was doing like atheist activism that was very like angry atheists, like yell because there's a bunch of like young white neckbeard dudes. though, like, and for me, I was like, I don't really like that because I want to be kind. And I told Seth, I go, one thing I appreciate about you, you will push back, but you're kind. You don't yell at people. You don't tell them they're stupid. You just say like, hey, I had these perceptions too. And until, someone gave me the patience and time, my cat is on my, in my camera. The I appreciate that more when people are showing patience and kindness.
Yeah.
There's times when you have to yell at people because, like, some people are saying some really terrible things, but for the most part, you should. Just because someone's religious doesn't mean they're stupid. Doesn't mean that they have. It doesn't mean they're less intelligent. It doesn't mean that they have bad intentions. It just means that they were indoctrinated into a system that they ever, for the first time in their life, they're being faced with difficult questions, and their instinct is to push back because they haven't learned how to have a disagreement and not take it personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, because religion is an idea. It doesn't say anything about who you are as a person.
I'd say your religion or even your lack of religion puts you in that same sort of thing.
Yep.
You can we can be non-believers and we can still share a significant amount of our ideals, our morals with people of religion. Our difference will come when we get to the point of, I believe in this God, I don't believe in that God. Okay, we can have a conversation about that, but we are still looking to protect the rights of marginalized communities. We're still looking to contribute to our society. So, I wouldn't attribute any lack of knowledge or intelligence to somebody who is theistic. And I do agree. Coming from a religious background, I can empathize with somebody who has these beliefs, and I'm more of the opinion that they haven't possibly spent the time to kind of dive into their beliefs and determine if they're real, or they may be in denial and not want to do that for some other reason. And I wouldn't begrudge them for that. So.
And I think that, and I also have found that even people that, like, I can think of people that, like, recovering from religion that have never had belief, but they have that empathy center to realize that, like, oh, because everybody's indoctrinated into some kind of bad idea.
Yes.
There have been people that are atheists, but they've been indoctrinated into, like, red pill communities or, whatever, bullshit. Mm-hmm. And then when they go, wait a second, hold on. And those, like, you can be indoctrinated in all types of bad ideas. It doesn't have to be religion. Like, I'm sure we can think of 10 off our top of our heads right now.
Yeah.
It's the empathy that's what matters. It's to recognize that, oh wait, and take that time. Because yes, do I get frustrated with religious people? Of course I do. Why am I an atheist activist?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have to recognize that it's still a human being and they're not their ideas, and that's something that I try to do. I don't always succeed, but I try. And that's the point. And when you get people that, I can think of people that haven't even been involved with the ACA, just in online activist spaces, that started out with good intentions and then it turned into feeding their ego, feeding their bank account or wherever that was. And not feeding their bank account and doing a mission. It is like, I want to generate money and I'm going to say things that are controversial to get clicks.
Yeah.
That I have a problem with, because then you're kind of missing the point if you want to bring people out of religion and become critical thinkers, but also to see human beings as a whole as an empathetic thing, rather than I just want to yell about how dumb religion is. And I don't think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, and I think that that it's kind of as I see it, it's maybe a little bit of an evolution in your atheism, because Yeah, at this point in my life, I don't really want to sit and listen to one side or another just outright yell and scream and have this big argument, because I don't think anything really gets communicated. It's theist wants to yell about their beliefs in a god, atheist wants to yell about how that's all wrong, and then both sides leave and claim victory for it. I don't think anything ever gets really accomplished like that. But truth be told, at a certain point when right after I kind of made that self-determination, I was an atheist, and had that kind of angry inner monologue about why have people been telling me this all my life and I've wasted all this time doing this. Yeah, that sort of thing appealed to me. It's like the people who are making the arguments that I wish I could make, and I'm hearing them do that and I'm rooting along with them. But I think at a certain point, if you continue to develop and you move on and you learn more about things and the way that people are and the things that motivate them to have those beliefs, and you can identify that, no, it's just not just somebody who's has a bad belief. It's somebody who's been brought up to have these bad beliefs, brought up to have these unsubstantiated ideas about things. You tend to, or at least I tend to move away from the I'm going to get pissed off at them, and I'll be more empathetic, more likely to want to have that kind of calmer discussion and kind of dive into things and not necessarily convince them that what they're doing is wrong, but maybe give them enough to think about where maybe they start to question that. And then I think that's probably the best I can do to any religious person, because to think that I have these 10 reasons and number 3 will shock them into not being a theist anymore is completely unrealistic, in my opinion.
Yeah. And also too, with how we are in this community, if we're not trying to be the arbiters of like not only reason but also like kindness, like why the fuck are you doing this? And like when I do the TikTok every Tuesday, I always say, like, I want to have a discussion. I don't want to debate, because debate implies winning. And what am I going to win? Souls? Like,
Yeah.
what am I actually going to win? Nothing.
Yeah.
I just say, like, I just want to get people to think a little more critically about their ideas, you know. And there have been times when I'm even talking to a theist and they'll say something, even though I might not agree with it, it will get my brain to go, well, think about this a little bit differently, Helen. Like, maybe there's a different perspective that you hadn't considered. It's not like, again, the assignment of an intelligent mind is to entertain a thought without accepting it. I think that was Aristotle. I think
I'll go with you on that.
It was probably a white guy. It was probably a white guy in Greece.
That sounds about right. I saw there was a question. I saw this question for me in the chat, which is a novelty for me because nobody wants to ask me any questions. But
there's a question. I missed it.
Ways to Human asked, Greg, how has becoming a grandfather changed your life? Was it different than becoming a dad? I think both had a significant impact on me. Becoming a dad was the kind of the change that you hear about, where somebody might have been more concerned with themselves and what they wanted to do, what they wanted to get. And then I vividly remember, in the way that maybe we can vividly remember things, the thing that changed it for me was holding my daughter in the hospital for the first time. And I got that whole, I don't know how else to describe it, but it was basically tunnel vision. Everything dropped away. Everybody in the hospital, unfortunately, my wife on the table getting all of her post-delivery stuff taken care of. And all it was is this little face of this little person in front of me. And that kind of put me on this track that now this person is in my mind, going to be more important than I will for the rest of my life. And I can't say I was perfectly successful at following through with that, because I'm me. So I screw shit up quite often. But
That's fair.
I do think it kind of held for me. So that was a very significant part of my life. Although now, becoming a grandfather, which I was not sure I would necessarily do, but becoming a grandfather kind of, rather than being its own experience, basically just builds upon the other experience, because now I get to watch this person that I raised and watched grow up and watched turned into, in my opinion, the best daughter on the planet. Fight me if you want to, but
I will. I got this.
that's fair.
You were gonna go down during back cruise.
I don't know about that. But no, now I get to watch her with the same sort of emotions, with the same sort of feelings about this person, and I'm lucky enough to share in that with her and see her both as that little girl that followed me around everywhere I went, to now this person who is starting her own stuff. She's starting her own life, having her own family, and being able to share in that and see. I always thought that the grandfather, the parent curse on the child would work, where it's like, you're just being an absolute terror today. I hope when you grow up and you have kids, they're an absolute terror for you as well. And I find myself not really kind of adhering to that. It's much more empathetically and kind of recognizing I'm her father. I've been in a position before to kind of instruct her and tell her what to do, but now I have to step back and respect her decisions on what she wants to do with her child and raise her child. Oh wow, Scott. I hope she's not watching. Seventh. Wow. So I mean, there's my daughter and Helen's. So there's
which is in the top.
There's 4 more that we're not aware of for Scott before he gets to his own. So I mean, there's
probably AJ's daughter. So we're gonna have to have like a tier system.
But no, I mean, I think they're both significant in their own way. I think grandfather might be more significant for me though, because it combines everything of being a parent, and now hopefully, should I be able to live long enough, kind of relive that to a certain extent, and then have it from the perspective of a child and of my daughter. So I don't know if that answers the question. I rambled on a little bit.
That's fine. That's what this show's for. You can ramble.
That's fine.
We're not on a time limit. So.
Okay. That's fine.
It's not like I'm going to sit there and be like, you got 20 minutes, man. So
that's my job. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's nice when you don't have a time limit. That's why I like doing TikToks, is I can ramble on.
Yeah.
Hi, Brent. Hello, chat. I usually wave at the chat. So, hello, chat. But yeah, I had the same feeling when I'm not a grandparent yet. I might never be, because my Kai is like, no, I want to travel and not have children. Yeah. And my son is kind of like, Andrew was kind of like, well, if I meet the right girl and if they want to have kids, maybe, but he's 21. Like, he's in the Army. He is going to live his best life. I am not attached to being a grandparent at all. But because I'm a very good Auntie Helen.
There we go.
I'm Auntie Helen to everybody's children.
There we go.
And that's fine. But I do remember that feeling when you have a child, you're just like I remember when Kai was born, I was literally, they were in the bassinet next to me, and I was laying in the hospital bed, and the drugs had worn off.
Yeah.
And it hit me, and I was like, I am responsible for another human being for at least 18 years, but it's lifelong.
Yeah,
It just shifts.
there is no
There's no
18-year
ending to
time
being a
frame.
parent.
Yeah. No, I
It never
agree.
ends. Like my mom is 92 years old, and when I call her once a week, she's like, "I was just thinking about you," and I'm like, it never changes, and that's a really wonderful thing, because also too, guess what? As atheists, we're emotional and we get very attached to people.
Yes. Contrary to belief, we love our children, we love our families, we have the capacity to do that. We're not all looking to slather barbecue sauce on them and throw them on the barbecue. So
Jesus is here.
oh, finally, we've been looking for you for, I don't know, 2,000 years.
So
You finally showed up. Good.
If you just showed up, like if Jesus just showed up and actually did shit, that'd be even better.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but if you show him my stream,
baby steps. He showed up, which
I know.
Yeah, so we'll take it from there. Yeah, no, I vividly.
Yeah, if anybody wants to be a mod, I will give you wrench privileges, because I'm the only mod on my channel. But apparently Kelly told me last week I needed a mod. So
that sounds like a volunteer effort by Kelly.
Yeah, listen, I did tell people, I did put a post on my Facebook that's going to be deleted by the probably by Sunday.
Yeah.
Because it's bad. But I'm probably going to create a page just for the show, because I do have to actually talk to some of you that are on Messenger. Yeah. so I can have guests. No, like I wish I could eat beef. I can't eat baby because I can't have beef. So, is it beef or pork? Would human flesh be beef or pork?
I've heard, and don't judge me, but I've heard it's,
I don't know,
more akin to pork than it is beef.
Okay. But we also have the same genetics as cows, so this is a different car.
It might be a little mix of the two.
It's a mix. So.
And I'm not specifically speaking from experience.
Test this thing.
I'm not speaking from experience, probably. So I mean, take that for what it is.
And I don't really like. I don't like ham. I like bacon, but I don't like ham and pork. I'm kind of like fine on, and I can't eat beef because it causes inflammation. So it's like chicken or fish for me. I'm a Catholic. So
I'm a former Catholic myself. Oh, I don't know.
It was like last night on the Nonprofits. We had
yeah, we did. Helen and I, Helen was on the show. I was the one running the tech on the show, and we got into this weird Catholic discussion. I blame Jimmy Jr. because
it's all Jimmy's fault.
He took them there, and they kind of ran with it. But yeah, I was listening to that, and I'm thinking to myself, "Yep, if you only knew, there's the Catholics are occupying the recording, basically." So.
See, thank you, AJ. Liking me, but it doesn't like them. Like I have chronic nerve pain, and if I eat beef, it flares it up. Even though I'm going to have a little bit of beef stew for dinner because it's cold in Florida. What temperature is it in Texas right now?
I think we were ranging somewhere around mid to low 30s. But it's also raining here currently, so that's probably going to drop it down. I think we had a low of 27, 28, something like that.
27?
Yeah. I shared it on my Facebook page earlier, but I may have dodged a complete calamity because the weather report was that we might get up to an inch of snow.
Oh my goodness.
For Texas.
The climate change isn't a thing, Greg.
Yeah, for Texas, that's like dogs and cats laying down together. I mean, it's basically the end of the world. What's happening? And we all know that the slightest little bit of snow will cause the entire electrical grid in Texas to go down. So that's how that works.
And then Ted Cruz goes to
Cancun. Yeah. I literally, and I don't know if
I did not forget.
I don't know that I could substantiate it, but my wife came in earlier to say cold weather in Texas means Ted Cruz is in the airport in the same way that Groundhog Day, we're looking for the groundhog, and he comes out. Yeah, if it gets cold, we know where to find Ted Cruz, and that's on a plane.
Well, that should be
else.
the indicator. It's
Yes.
like, are we going to get 6 more weeks of winter?
6 more weeks of snow. Ted Cruz is on a plane, so yeah,
to go to
6 more weeks
tropical
of winter.
That's how you know he's the new groundhog. And he's not as cute as a groundhog, so it's just sad.
Yeah, well, I mean, few things are as cute as a groundhog.
He's a garbage person, and I can say that because it's my channel.
There we
He's
go.
A garbage human
like
being.
I said, yeah.
I don't like that man.
It's refreshing not to be on guard and say, "Well, no, you can't talk about a politician."
Like,
listen,
when I do nonprofits, it takes so much.
Yeah.
It takes so much restraint because I'm like, I can't really say that.
Yes.
I can't give my own personal opinions. I can, but I have to censor them because I understand. Like, it's the same thing with RFR. Like, we can disparage against like ideology, but we can't disparage against specific people.
Yeah.
I will disparage about Trump and the Republican Party all I want on my channel because I can do that.
Absolutely.
So I can do that on this channel. If you want to tell me that you think the Republican Party is but full of a bunch of fucking buttheads, please feel free.
Yeah, I would highly agree with you in this forum. So
yes, you agree with me because I am not a 501c3 organization, so you can express yourself.
Not yet, at least. So yeah, I'm clear.
You're expressing yourself as yourself, not a member of the atheist community of Austin.
Yeah,
because your opinions are your own.
The opinions of the jackass on the right hand side of your screen do not reflect those of FreeThinker's Fireside or the ACA. It's my own stupid ass.
Exactly. That we're probably aligned on a lot of things. Yeah. Scott said the same thing. Like, it is the hardest thing about being on the nonprofit is to censor yourself.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, I applaud you for being able to do it. I mean, I feel the same sort of emotions when something comes through. It's all right. What dumbass thing did Trump do today? And it's just natural fodder for a show, especially like nonprofits who does this sort of. If we could do it, we wouldn't have shit internet apologists say. We'd have shit dumbass politicians said today. But unfortunately, the IRS would frown upon that because we're not a church.
To Brent, I am drinking a Menage a Trois red wine blend. So that's what I'm drinking.
Not touching that one.
A red blend. Which is another thing I can do on my own show. I can drink wine.
Yes. Your show, your rules.
My show, my rules. You can drink on my show. But you have to be able to form coherent sentences because, like, I do want people to be able to understand what you're saying.
I will abstain because I challenge forming good sentences when I'm not drinking anything. So yeah.
I mean, like, to be fair, I have ADHD and I talk very quickly. So even when I'm sober, I have a hard time. Like, this is another thing too. I'm just going to tell y'all, if you do any sort of content and you listen back to yourself, you will find that you stumble over words a lot. A lot.
But I think you do get better, especially if you do that review process.
You do.
You'll get better at doing it. It's like any other skill. The more you practice it, generally, the better you'll get at it. So, like,
for example, I did a talking about religion, and I thank you, Richard Gilliver, for always pointing this out. I did a presentation on paganism that was 3 hours long for recovering from religion, because what happened was the night that I recorded, the recording wasn't on, so they re-recorded it, and I got to do. Usually, it's only an hour and a half, and they gave me 3 hours.
Yeah.
So, which was great because it's a lot of content to cover. And when I listened back to myself, even though I was giving a lot of good information, I was saying certain phrases over and over and over again. But it was the first presentation that I ever gave. on the form of religion that I belong to, and I didn't really realize that I was repeating myself that much. And then even when I listen back to it, I've listened back to it a couple times since then. I'm like, oh my God, I could totally clean this up. Like I could do so much better now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of preamble, a lot of over explaining that I could just cut out now if I was going to do an hour and a half presentation on like paganism.
Yeah.
But I think that's really important because that's when you know they're like, oh, I have, like, if you don't have an editor, you gotta self-edit.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think we've said it before, and I don't want to fall into the same thing that you just said about repeating myself. So, yeah, it's an absolutely valid process to self-evaluate and then learn from your mistakes and go on to make absolutely new mistakes later on, rather than the same old ones.
Oh yeah, we're always going to make mistakes, but like I think that's the only way you learn.
Uh-huh.
By making mistakes, and also just being like, I'm a human being.
Yeah. Not being so hard on yourself for not being the next Seth Andrews on your first show, or not being the next Forrest Valkai on your show. I mean, I think we go back, we find far enough back, and I've seen some early photos of Seth, which are absolutely hilarious.
He's so cute.
They're
He's
absolutely
so
hilarious.
I'm like, oh, I'm like, Seth, you're so cute.
And I think he started off on like Christian radio. So to go back and like hear his first show and hear how
he's played a couple of clips on his podcast of when he was like a Christian, like, Christian broadcaster, and it is hilarious.
I think anybody who's done this will kind of be in the same situation. But yeah.
Like still very soothing. Like I want to like him to like do meditations for me to fall asleep to.
Yeah.
But same voice. But it's very funny to hear him doing like a Christian DJ voice. It's very entertaining. I highly recommend.
Yeah, we get little tastes of it now and then when he's on the show, because we do before we get to the show, we do audio checks. So we'll generally have people either read something, and almost invariably, Seth will do his kind of show opening statement from his Christian radio days. So he'll be like, it's 38 degrees in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Welcome to the show. We're going to be talking about all things Jesus all day, every day. He just goes, it's so ingrained in him. And I think I equate it to like me having been a Catholic, and I've been out of religion for 20-ish, 30-ish years, but I can by memory recite Our Father. I can recite the Apostles' Creed.
Oh, me too.
Because it's just so ingrained in me. And that's what I equate him falling back
and
into.
All the moves. If
What's
you
that?
and I went to a Catholic mass, we would know the moves. We would do the prayers.
All the aerobics. I still know
all the aerobics. It's in there. Like those neurons are never going to get disconnected.
Yes.
Like they're in there.
So yeah, when I think I get too full of myself and I think I've got all this atheism stuff figured out, I'm like, do the Apostles' Creed. And it's just like, we believe in one God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. We believe in
creator of heaven and earth, of all the seen and the unseen.
Yeah, it's like holy shit! I can't get that out of my brain anymore. I mean, for God's sakes, I'm in charge of an atheist network, and I can still perfectly recite all the prayer. Oh, Hail Mary, full of grace. 10
do your acts of contrition. Like,
oh yeah,
it's in there. It's never going away. And indoctrination is the best. Like it's just never gonna like. So we had, when this was several years ago, when me and Todd were like newly married, and one of our friends was having their son baptized. I mean, and Todd he grew up like non-religious. Like his parents got into evangelicalism like later on, but he didn't go to church. Like he grew up pretty secular, and we went to a Catholic mass. and you just fall into, and he was looking, he's looking at me like, who are you? Because I was doing all the prayers. I'm doing like, get it up and kneeling and like sitting down. And I know all, and he's like, who are you? And I'm like, listen, I'm like, indoctrination is a hell of a drug. Yes. Like this is Helen, Catholic schoolgirl, like never going away part of my brain.
Yep. Same thing. Yeah. And having it, complicating it for me was having gone to a Catholic school for the first 8 years.
That's what I did.
Having been an altar boy and possibly...
I wasn't an altar, no, because I own a vagina. I don't get to be up on the altar.
Well, yeah, clearly women cannot serve God in that manner. They need to sit and be quiet and not teach anybody. So, I mean, that makes sense.
Right.
But yeah, and then actually probably being a few months away of trying to go to seminary to become a priest. I almost went down that road. Thank Roland the Closet Goblin that I never did. But yeah, so yeah, all of that stuff is still in my brain. I mean, if I think hard enough about it, I could probably relive the steps that I needed to do for altar boy, which is go grab the chalice, cover the chalice, put it on the altar, go grab the Eucharist, put that on top of the chalice, go get the bells, go get the incense. I don't think it ever goes away. So
my mom recently sent me this was last year, sent me a bunch of photos of me as a child and sent a photo of me from my first communion that I had completely blocked out. And I was like, oh, and it all came back. All came back. And I was like, oh, I remember this day. And it was, and also when I was a child, I remember asking, like, why can't I drink the blood of Christ? Because they hadn't done the grape juice thing yet when I was a kid. Yeah. And I was like, well, if I'm supposed to, like, I can remember myself even as an 8-year-old going, well, if I'm supposed to receive the body and blood of Christ to be redeemed, if I don't receive the blood, am I redeemed? And I remember that question going through my 8-year-old brain. Yep. It's weird. Like, and I'm like, and now it's like, well, this is why I'm the person that I am now, because I started asking questions.
Yeah. Very much the same for me. Although my question was, and I kind of vividly, again, to the extent that I can vividly remember these things, being it's 40 odd years ago, that first kind of question in my brain was being that altar boy and taking the third collection of the day, because we had to do the one for general collection, and then we had to do the one for the church construction fund. And then we had a guest speaker coming in who was buying goats for people in some other country, taking up that third collection, and my little 12-year-old brain going, why does God need all this money? Can't he just like poof these people a bunch of money and we don't have to collect it? And asking the priest that and just getting kind of pushed off this, well, you don't understand the way this do, or God's giving us an opportunity to help each other, or some lame ass excuse that just tells me.
And your 12-year-old brain couldn't handle like a real answer.
Well, no, yeah, it's like, and it was never satisfying for me. So that's kind of my first little break in the armor, I guess, so to speak. And then it was all downhill from there.
Like it's the death of 1,000 cuts.
Yes,
like absolutely. That. Like that's the thing. I want to when it comes to those of us that do this type of activism, we know that one conversation is not going to change somebody's mind. If it does, I'm like, wow. Yeah. Like your faith was very, very shaky legs. Yeah. Like it was a deck of cards. It is a slow process. And unless you're willing to walk people through their logical fallacies and get them to see, like, why they're why they can't marry two ideas, even though they try. You shouldn't do this, because it can get, because like I can tell you, like I talk to people every week, and it is frustrating.
Yeah.
It is frustrating. I have patience and kindness, but sometimes I'm just like, dude, I'm like, make sense. And I do it with, I try to do it with humor and not malice. I'm like, and I think because humor is always better received.
Yeah.
And I will steel man people. I will grant them idea. I'll be like, okay, I'll grant you this, but still, like, blah 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 blah. Because you have to meet people where they are and hear what they're. You have to do active listening. Okay, and someone with ADHD, hard.
Yeah.
And I get overly excited and I interrupt, and I will own that. But also when you're having those conversations, you have to listen to the person and really hear what they're saying. And then when you're like, hey, I have a quibble with this is the issue I'm having with your argument, you have to also pin them down, because they will want to shift the goalposts. They want to move on. They'll do whataboutisms. You have to be like, no, we were talking about this, please address this. And you'll see the host do this on a lot of the shows.
Yes.
Because if you don't do that, they've been taught through apologetics and the arguments that they hear in churches that, oh, we'll move on to something else. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. And that's something we actively encourage. And that's something I actually appreciate when it happens, because I feel like it's very easy to kind of get caught up in a discussion and somebody is talking about topic A and you kind of pin them down on it, and then they pivot to topic B and your brain immediately goes to, well, I know how to refute that sort of a thing. And if you're not careful, you'll jump on it. And at the end of the call, it's like they've refuted all these things. They're leaving with this feeling like, well, you didn't convince me of anything, and not kind of coming to grips with the fact that their arguments don't have a lot to substantiate themselves with.
And I kind of want to tie this back to, we were talking about earlier about, like, as soon as you insult someone, as soon as you say, even if their argument is not intelligent, if you say stupid, they don't care that you're calling their argument stupid. They hear you think I'm stupid.
Yes.
And you have to be very careful. And one thing I've really appreciated with our shows, especially, they will even say, like, I don't agree with this. I think this is a dumb idea. But they never call the person dumb. They might think the argument doesn't hold validity. And we all fall into, like, yes, I think this is stupid. But they always do it from their perspective. From my perspective, this argument is stupid. Yeah. It is not, you're stupid. From my perception, this argument is stupid. And I think that's a very clear distinction that I wish more atheists, people that are on online spaces especially, would make, because we know, like, just as human beings, as soon as someone says you are unintelligent or your idea is unintelligent, is stupid, we will cut ourselves off and we are not interested in anything more what the person is saying.
Yeah.
And I think that's, and like, for me, I don't really like that, because if we want people to shift their way of thinking, if you start insulting them, they're not going to want to shift their way of thinking. They're going to double down, because guess what? We do that too.
Yes, we do sometimes. I think we might be more apt to reevaluate. I mean, we are proponents of saying, I don't know about something, rather than posit a kind of flimsy excuse. Not perfectly, but I think we're more apt to do that because we don't have this investment in, well, I know I'm right because I know God's real and I know whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of a fine line to walk, I think, quite often, and it also depends upon the the mindset of the person calling in. You'll get absolutely, if you say that somebody's using an argument from ignorance or you're using an argument from incredulity, they don't hear the argument part. They maybe don't even understand it. They think, did he just call me an idiot? Or did he just insult me? And yeah, I think they would either close up or they'll double down or they'll increase their kind of rhetoric to match it, because they're in their own mind, I guess, trying to defend themselves or defend their statements. And maybe they stop listening or stop being open. So I don't agree with the whole insulting somebody. But I'm going to flip flop all over the place here, because I do think
we always flip flop because everything is nuance.
I do think there comes a certain point where you've explained something to somebody, you've gotten them to say something, and I think the most infuriating thing, and crew gets infuriated. If you think the hosts are spicy,
oh my god, you should see us in crew chat.
The crew is like ruthless. We will go after and thankfully nobody's there to hear it except other crew members.
I'm gonna have to do some more crew chat because I just crew chat because we were all sitting there going like, "What the fuck, man?"
Yeah, crew is oftentimes way more ruthless than the hosts are. But I mean, for us to listen to a 20-minute conversation where they present a bad argument over and over and over, and then you get them to acknowledge something, and then they go back to the statement that they made originally, which is, I'm going to discount everything you've talked to me for 15 minutes about, and I'm going to restate this bad thing that you've already kind of demolished, I guess, for lack of a better term. But yeah, I mean, there are crew members here in the chat. I mean, Jonathan can attest to this. Infidel can attest to this. We are yeah. We are horrible human beings.
Like I'm just like everybody's confirming.
There we go. AJ has been recently in crew. Yeah, I think AJ needs to contribute a little bit more to the AJ, irreverence.
like listen, if you do a crew chat, I will show up and we can both we can both talk about terrible arguments that the theists make on the show.
Yes.
Like we do this as a body exercise.
But I think a lot of it is just kind of catharsis among ourselves. We hear these arguments
because we hear the same arguments every week, which I think also too. Like if I have to hear the Kalam argument one more time, I will probably want to tear out my ear, stab my eardrums.
And I really want to. We did it on Talk Heathen for a while, but I almost want to reinstantiate the whole theist caller bingo cards that we had for Talk Heathen.
God, that was the best. We might have to reinstate that at the ACD, like doing bingo cards. Because I love, we didn't do that. We did it for a while during the pandemic because everybody was like, it was super fun to do the bingo cards, and I think that if we do it with crew chat and we did the bingo cards.
Oh my God. I had a weird idea, but I think we would, I don't know. I had a weird idea to basically record crew chat and put it out as a feature sometimes.
We should put it on as a Patreon.
Put it on like a Patreon feature where you get to listen to all the shit that we talk about people in the background. I'm afraid it will overtake every show that we have and nobody will want to listen to the shows. They'll just go listen to the crew talk shit about people. So
because like the after show is great that because I'm gonna have to resubscribe to my nonprofits on Patreon because I'm on the Talk Heathen one because Richard is my god. as it should be.
As he is for all of us, yeah.
Yes. But and the after shows are great. But crew chat is its own special thing.
Yeah, I'd almost invite, because we do have a lot of people who are interested when they first come in and they're interested in volunteering with us. One of the first things we do is we bring them into crew to kind of let them know how the shows run. And I'm almost always admonishing our crew members, hey, we have somebody new here, behave your freaking selves today, because we don't want to scare this person away on the first time they're here. Let them get 1 or 2 shows under their belt, and then you can be as surly as you want to be, because that at that point we've usually kind of convinced them to do it anyway. But yeah, I threw that. I got some objections from certain people about not wanting to be on the recording, and we have on, I think, a couple of occasions inadvertently kind of released that, because we take the shows and we turn the videos into podcasts. And on a couple of occasions that I'm aware of, once somebody else did it and once actually I was the one to do it, we have a 5-minute buffer ahead of time to get all the recordings. We call it safety copy. And that is just the crew talking with the host, talking all kinds of shit. If we see a caller come in, it's like, oh my God, it's this dude again. And
it's Dan or John or like whatever person. We're like, oh God, not this person again.
You just hear us talking shit. And a couple of times we have neglected to remove that from the beginning of the show. So somebody goes and listens to a podcast and hears 4.5 minutes of crew just lighting up all of our prospective callers. And obviously we will generally go in and we will fix it. But I mean, it's kind of entertaining to think about that. And possibly something
because I also at the same time, I don't think people realize that we're human beings, and when we are hearing the same things week after week, and we know who's calling and what they're probably going to talk about, and it's going to be bad. Like, it's one of those things that are like, oh no, like, and we disparage and for the audience, they're like, why is the crew disparaging this person? It's like, listen, I'm like, you have not heard the 10 conversations prior to so-and-so calling, and we're kind of tired of it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's all, I think it's all kind of in, like I said, I feel like
this is a con of atheist activism, everybody.
Yeah, this is the inner circle of finding out shit that you wouldn't normally find out, I guess. But no, I think, like I said, I feel like it's cathartic because we're all kind of there. It can be a very stressful environment, especially when something goes wrong, and our viewers don't always see when things go wrong. But and it's the whole swan on the top of the lake. It all looks very graceful. It all looks very beautiful. This thing gliding across the water and under the water. It's just like paddling furiously to keep it all together. But yeah, I think, and that's why I generally don't mind people doing it, because it's just blowing off steam. It is kind of commiserating with your fellow people who are there, basically all of a like mindset. And it's just I don't know how many times I've like seen a call come into the queue and like, oh crap, it's this dude, and then the whole crew will be like,
we've all done that. We're like, not again. Oh
no, he's gonna say this and this, and it's
especially like the call screamers, like if you know, like John or Chrissy is like, and they're like, it's this person, do we want to have them on again? And it's just like, that's why we encourage like so many people to call, is so we don't get repetitive people, because usually the repetitiveness gets old. And I do feel like some of the callers just like they don't actually want to have a discussion, that where they're trying to expand like their thinking. They're like, I just like to listen to myself talk, and they're hoping that they'll catch the host and like a gotcha, but they never do, because we're all very well versed in a lot of these arguments. So
it doesn't take much. And we sometimes see them coming from a mile away, especially, like I said, if it's somebody who we know before. I mean, I'm not on shows, but at a certain point when somebody's called in 8 times effectively with the same argument, in my brain, I'm going, okay, you're going to bring up this particular topic in this way, and here's how you refute it, and you're not going to accept it, and you're going to call back next week with the same exact argument again. Or the ones that really kind of get to me is the ones who you can audibly hear turning the pages of their script while they're trying to read their script. And
Yep.
God forbid our hosts ask them a question to take them off of the script, because then they have to kind of stutter and stammer and figure out a way to segue back to the next point that they had on their paper. And it's sometimes hilarious. And like I said, sometimes it's literally hearing the paper turn when they're reading everything that they're reading off of their script.
Which is insane. Because I don't need a script. Like the ideas that I have are just like part of my brain. And and the stuff I don't know, I'll just go, I don't fucking know. I'm like, but I have Google. I like when I do ACA TikTok, I'm like, oh, I have Google. Like, oh, we're gonna talk about the Bible. I'm like, let me look up scripture. Let's look up scripture about slavery.
Yeah.
And then I have websites that list like different Bibles. I'm like, which Bible are we talking about? And it's great because it's real time. But when you have someone that's like flipping through a script, it's like, are these ideas really your own? Because if they're not your own, like your apologetics, you're just listening to like William Lane Craig or, some other, person that's like, the Bible's really real. And doing apologetics, that's not your idea. You're adopting an idea.
Yeah, and
and if I can't explain a position from my own point of view, then because I'm a skeptic and I'm a humanist and I have critical thinking skills, but I explain it from my perspective. I'm not taking on an ideology to explain it to somebody else.
Yeah. And I
if
get
you have to use a script, I have questions.
Well, I mean, I can appreciate wanting to kind of get your ideas together, get them in an organized manner so you can present them.
I get.
But when you are almost invariably reading word for word this description that you possibly downloaded from Answers in Genesis, and you're like, oh, this is it. I can take this to their show and I will completely destroy all those atheists because they won't have any way to dispute all of this completely valid and completely unconquerable information that I've got here. And to hear them within the first 2 minutes slowly start to realize, well, shit, I'm supposed to read this thing and then they're supposed to say yes. And then I read the other part and they say, well, I don't know. And then I read the last part and I can convert them back to being a religious person. And it never, ever works that way. But
I think it's hard for religious people because they hear a narrative that like we're atheists because we're mad at God. Like it's a God's not dead argument. And it's like, no, it's like the toothpaste is out of the tube. I cannot get my brain to go back into believing in things that I cannot validate.
Yeah.
Like my brain is changed. And at this point, if a God exists, it's up to the God to show that to me. It's not up to you. And like, I will say this on TikTok. I'm like, do not proselytize to me because one, it's not going to work. And two, if God is the arbiter and creator of the universe, he doesn't need us lowly meat bags to do his job for him. So don't bother. And because that's why proselytize, because like I really want to know, I'm like, has anyone been convinced by like a street proselytizer? I would like to know because I don't think you have.
I think the only people who would be convinced are already in the mindset, and this is just a way to reinforce to them, yeah, I thought this thing was true, and then I heard this guy with the megaphone and the big sandwich board, and yeah, he's saying what I was thinking too. So it clearly is true now that two people are thinking it, and it makes sense. So, I don't know. And I'm kind of looking at
I had an argument about like the argument from of Populum, at Populum, Tuesday night. I was like, that's not an argument, and like, let me tell you why.
Yeah. I mean,
and I think, but also introducing people to the logical fallacies, it's really important because a lot of apologetics uses those, fallacies.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we kind of need to be versed on in this community, is to say, like, well, how does this make sense, and take people through the process. If you're hung up on your own ego, for example, you're not going to do that. You're going to, instead of walking them through why that fallacy is hindering them, like it's giving them it's giving them a stop sign in their thought process. If you're not willing to sit there and going, why the argument for ad populum does not work, and you just call them stupid, and you have completely, if they're a person that has any sort of like feelings, they're going to be like, oh, okay, this person doesn't really want to hear me, instead of walking them through why the argument from ad populum does not work.
Yeah.
And I see, and luckily over the past few years in the communities that I try to follow, like, they're working through a lot of that stuff. It still happens, and I wish it didn't, because if you really want people to change their mind, you have to meet them where they're at and show them, like, let me ask you, like, let me explain to you why this argument does not work, and let's have a conversation why it does not work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rather than telling them they're a dum-dum.
Yeah. But I think I'm also, to kind of silver lining it, we do have a lot of people who will come on and I almost feel like argue for the sake of arguing. They want, like you said, they want to hear themselves on a show and be able to, I don't know, some of them even are coming in with a specific agenda that I'm going to say these things, I'm going to get the answers, and then I'm going to download the video and I'm going to recut it so it looks like I just destroyed these dumb atheists. And I'm saying that because I just got sent last week somebody who was basically doing that.
Fun.
Yeah, it's I mean, and the sad part is most of the people who are kind of following along with him won't take the time to actually go watch the show he's talking about.
No.
They'll just say, oh, well, yeah, clearly you're right, stupid atheists, dumb, you owned them. But I mean, I do also kind of take heart that we also have on the other side of the spectrum those conversations where we'll have somebody come in possibly with a contentious argument, and in the process of talking to them, you can kind of see them realizing what's wrong with it and actually acknowledging, okay, yeah, I get that. I didn't think about that before. That's a really good thing. Oh, they're the gratuitous.
Catnip's never clean. She's reminding me that I did not give her TRTS yet.
Yeah.
9 o'clock. You have 7 more minutes, and then I'll give you what you want. So
gratuitous cat on screen, which means nobody's listening to the last thing I said.
No, nobody's listening anymore. It's an adorable kitty cat.
But yeah, we do have conversations with people who actually are engaged. They're honest. They're having honest conversations with us, and will acknowledge, yeah, you got me there. That's something I'm going to have to take away and think about. And I think those are the conversations I guess I enjoy the most, because it makes me feel like what it is we're doing is actually being effective. We're not, again, deconverting anybody, but we're making them think about things that maybe they had never thought about before. So there's good and there's bad, and then there's infidel, which is worst.
We're not talking about Glenn because he's Fight Club.
Well, I hadn't seen him pipe in recently, so I figured I'd insult him. And
we can talk about him because he's not here, so we can talk about him.
Oh, there we go. Now we're good.
I don't know if he's still here. He might just be listening in the background. But
well,
I'm going to assume he's not here because he's
I'll
Fight
take
Club.
I'll take a timestamp and I'll make sure to send it to him so he can enjoy.
Oh yeah, totally. You should totally cut this. We can talk about like how we were talking about you and Helen's show.
Yeah. So.
Well, like, but one thing I have, like, and I'm going to be honest right now, I know the pandemic had changed a lot what happened with the ACA, but I am what's the word I'm looking for? I am pleasantly surprised and happy to be part of the ACA since it has become more diverse. And also it is not very like, yes, when someone's being a butthead or being dishonest, call them out, and you should totally call them out. And when you have legitimate emotions that are reactionary to what people are saying, please do.
Yeah.
But also too, the more like, well, wait a second, man, like, let's actually have a conversation about why this doesn't work, why you're kind of putting a plug into the way that you're thinking about things. I have appreciated so much over the past, like, especially the past couple of years. Because like, I don't always watch the shows because like I've heard all these arguments and I'm just kind of like, because the show isn't for me. The show's not for me. It is not for me. I've done the work.
Yeah.
But the reason why I do like the nonprofits, or if I can, like, I want to be on XP, Greg. I think me and Jason should do an episode.
Well, you have to yell at Katie, especially
since put it out there.
Since she's not.
Or me and Ben have to do an episode together.
Okay.
But either way, like, because I'm not doing it for me. I do the nonprofits because I want people to like think about how, politics and religion are fucking each other and how it shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's why we do that show. And I think those conversations are very important to have. But like, I don't watch like a lot. I support the EC and I love my people, but I don't always, like, I'll listen on my way to work. I don't, like, Sundays I want to spend time with my husband. Like, I want my husband to still love me.
How dare you?
Like,
how dare you?
But I still love and support the shows, but the arguments I've heard, I'm having the same arguments. It's not for me. The shows are not designed for me. They're designed for the people that need to hear those messages because they're not exposed to them anymore. Like, do you know how many people from recovering from religion we get that go, I heard about you from the ACA?
Yep. I absolutely
That's
do.
the point.
Because it is, we, to be clear, we don't have any sort of official affiliation with RFR.
We just feed each other.
We do feed each other, I think, to a certain extent. I know we respect the work that RFR does. And it's basically the go-to. If we get to a point in a conversation where somebody's experiencing some issues and we get calls from
everybody's shilling about shows they wanted me on, so I'm gonna
all right. I will make Katie watch this tomorrow because she'll probably want to laugh at me anyway. But
Katie, you have to get me on AXP and with either like Ben or Jason. That'd be great.
I try to do something about it, but as we all know, I don't actually run the shows. It's all Katie.
Like when it comes to like, nonprofit stuff, is Dell's like, hey, well, I'm like, there was an empty spot for the beginning of February, and I was like, you want me on the show?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do it. But yeah, I agree. So, we don't do. I know you don't do. You were talking about not who you were doing the show for, and I think, I know it's been stated on the show, but I do like the concept of even when we're talking to somebody, it's not necessarily the person on the phone that we were trying to convince that their argument is bad. It is the possibly 20 or 30 other people who share the same sentiment, who listen to them, the caller kind of lay out their first part, and I'm like, yes, that is good. There's no way that it's going to get refuted. And then they hear it refuted invariably. And now they have to kind of determine, well, maybe I won't use it, or maybe I'll only use it if I don't think the people can refute it, which I think is valuable. Because yeah, we do the show for the people who are not kind of brave enough to call in, but still share those
Right.
sentiments because they can hear it.
But the thing is, though, those people are going to contact like recovering from religion.
Yes.
They're going to talk to an online agent and going like, hey, I listened to, the Atheist Experience, and Forrest brought up a thing about evolution that I didn't consider. And now I'm dealing with this, cognitive dissonance, and I need someone to talk to about it. Because they don't want to be exposed, like calling into a show, but they'll contact us, and that's the whole point. And also too, because we will like refer to like, hey, you should check out Talk Heathen. You should check out, because when I'm like, for example, when I do like the TikTok, I always say like the ACA is really good if you want to have those intellectual arguments. The recovering from religion is finding the emotional support and the community support, but like the ACA, we have to feed each other, because it's not just about one or the other. It is about like, we are all in the same sort of boat as far as how we support one another. And that's more important, again, about like the mission.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Because if we're not supporting each other, what's the point? Like, if we're not supporting like American Atheists, if we're not supporting other secular organizations that are not doing the same things we are, but we have to all kind of feed each other if we want to see the things happen that we want to happen.
Yeah.
And it starts with online activism, because that is the first time people here go, like, they may be still be believers, but they might leave their church. Like, they go, I still believe in God, but I don't want to support like the Catholic Church anymore.
Yeah.
Which I think you should not support the Catholic Church, because it's a criminal organization. I'm going to stand by that fucking statement, because they're bad.
Yeah.
But you still believe in God. Like, Seth was the first one to like, I adopted, was we can argue philosophy, but are your values aligned with mine?
Yeah.
And that's more important.
Yeah, and I get it. And that's another thing that we kind of hear. And yeah, we do a lot of referrals to RFR. I don't want to say necessarily every single show we do it, but when it is appropriate, we absolutely do that. But I think what you're talking about is people kind of listening to our shows and then coming to RFR to kind of discuss the more emotional parts of it. I mean, we even get emails on the weekly from people, and the most common two things that we get for people who are like kind of thanking us for the shows is that, number one, we provided them with that first little seed of doubt, I guess you might call it, something they heard on the show. And they're like, no, that's bullshit. I'm going to go look that up. And then they look it up and it's like, holy shit, it's right. We provide that first little seed for them to start doubting. And maybe we put them down that road of, well, I thought this was a completely valid thing, and now I'm finding out that this thing is all bullshit. Maybe what else might I be thinking in that same way that is also bullshit? And then on the other end of the spectrum, we get you guys took care of that last little straw of doubt, of faith that I had left, whether that's fear of hell, whether that is whatever it happens to be. Whatever we address on the show gets rid of that last little barrier, them to kind of letting go of their faith. So that's probably the most rewarding part of all of this, to see that we're actually making a real impact on people's lives. So
that's always the thing. Like, when, like, I've had people in the TikTok will say like, oh my God, I love what you do. You like changed my life. like in the live feed, they're like, I have people in the live feed on TikTok saying, I love the ACA. I love what you do. You changed my life. You made me, and that's the feedback I love. I'm like, awesome. Because that makes me like, okay, like what I'm doing matters. Because whenever, like when someone's from recovering from religion, I'm like, I love Helen. Like, I love what she says. And, RFR has changed my life. It's that validation. What you're doing matters. And that's the pro. And I wish, like, and I understand you have to make money. I would love monetization. I might start Patreon if this channel grows more. I like money. It's not going to do anything. Like, really, it would probably just pay for my, my Streamlabs account. But either way, like if my Patreon pays for my Streamlabs account, great. And I'll do stupid emojis, and like I will collaborate with other artists and maybe make some merch, whatever. Like, that's not the point. Like, I wanted to start this channel because I wanted to talk to people in this community about the things that they fucking care about. It's not about me. It's my channel, but it's not really about me. Because I want to have these conversations because they're so important. Because we're living in a time where it's a double-edged sword. We have access to all the information, which is good, but we have access to all the information.
Yeah. And we have sometimes the source of the information that we're getting is biasing them in such a way as to go to some other agenda. I mean, it's the same people that report on climate change, report on the effects of climate change, will have other people take their research and say, oh, well, see, global warming is not really a thing because it's 29 degrees in Texas. That's not warm. That's cold. So it's all a bunch of bullshit. And if you read the wrong things from like a Fox News who has openly said, yes, we've lied about things on the air, but people still flock to it as their one and only reliable news source. It is a double-edged sword. We have access to all information, but we also don't always have access to the motivation of the people behind providing the information, and they can skew that in any way that they want to, oftentimes.
And that's the thing. Like, I was listening to a podcast today, and I realized how my own biases had been working against me, and I was just like, oh, I thought that I was being kind of critical, but I was coming from an emotional space and falling into your own fallacy. And falling into that emotional space where you're not coming from a critical point of view. You're coming from, this feels right. It feels like it's true.
Yeah.
And we do that as atheists. We do that, and we are the arbiter. Like, I'm a critical thinker. It's like, yeah, you are about religion and belief and thinking that you are being, seeking out like critical data. But like, I found out that you can totally microwave stuff in plastic and it's going to be fine. Like I have fallen into the fallacy that like I can microwave things because I'm going to get microplastics in my body and I'm going to get cancer and die. And then I listened to someone that was an actual scientist that studies this, and I go, oh, I was wrong about that. And it was an emotional response. It was not based on logic and reason. It was an emotional, this feels like it's true.
Yeah.
And we do this as atheists. And I think that like I'm admitting my own hubris. It sounded good in my brain. It makes sense. Does it? In like scientific terms, obviously fucking not.
Yeah. No, and I'm no better than that either. I read I'll admit that the homepage of Edge got me one time because I saw a story flash across and it was like, no, what the hell is this? So I went through and I clicked on it, and it was
I love her.
it was some deep revelation of truth. And I go read the story, and it's like 2 claims with no references, no statistics, and I'm immediately able to say, no, that's bullshit. But yet and still I would turn around, and I remember specifically the thing that I fell for was, it was probably a couple months ago, hearing that, oh, well, there was this company somewhere that told all their employees they're not getting raises because they're going to be subject to tariffs. And all of their employees were like, well, I thought other countries were going to pay for the tariff, which there are elements of the story that is true. But when you look into it, and I even used Snopes on it after I had bought into the whole thing of like, yeah, well, you dumbasses, that's what you
I heard
wanted.
the same story. It was on
Yeah.
TikTok.
But
And my roommate told me about it. And I was just like, well, I'm like, but there was like a little bit of doubt in my brain that I was just like, well, is it because are they using the tariffs as an excuse, or is it real? Because the tariffs haven't taken effect yet.
Yeah. But I mean, it was that whole
and
thing.
it would count for the 2024 budget, not for the 2025 budget.
Yeah. But yeah, what I'm saying is that, yeah, I kind of fell in for that initially. And I'm like, yeah, haha,
Yeah.
that's what you dumbasses get for voting it all in. And then I look at Snopes, and Snopes calls it, it's not like, it's their middle ground. It's not confirmed. It's not falsified.
Yeah.
It's like unsubstantiated or something. And I read their explanation. It's like, yeah, they said all this stuff, but they never named a company. They never named any of the details. And it was the same thing that I was able to be critical about the thing that I didn't agree with, but it's the same thing I fell for with the thing that I agreed with and was kind of relishing. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm just as much of a dumbass at certain
like
occasions.
And that's the thing, because like it feels emotionally right, because that's where that's the thing, like nobody's free from bias. Like we tend to, because we are progressive people, when we hear about like a company's like anything that sounds like it's screwing people over, we are going to go, it's probably screwing people over.
Yeah.
But then but there's more nuance involved in a lot of this stuff. And usually, like, yes, major corporations are probably fucking people over, but you have to, it's like, okay, what company is it? Like, what is the actual circumstances but the thing is, though, is that we are subject to the same meme ideology, because like everything is just like little, and I'm like, we all fall into this fucking shit. Like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, I don't, like, I totally do. I've had Scott point out to me like, Helen, that is not correct. And I'm like, I am so sorry. I posted a meme because it felt right.
And yeah, I mean,
Scott's like, and Scott has pointed it out to me, and I'm like, thank you, Scott, because I want to be wrong. I do. Like, if I am, like, I have a moment of like, well, now I feel stupid, but in the next moment, it's like, thank you for teaching me that I was wrong, because that means I just learned something and I posted some bullshit. I try not to do that, but it's an emotional reaction. It's not like thinking fast and thinking slow. I'm not thinking slow right now. Like, this is an emotional reaction to some propaganda that I happen to agree with.
Yeah.
Yep. And to pretend like the left and progressives are not falling for propaganda is bullshit as well.
Oh, I think they put it out. I don't know that I can say they put it out as much as the right does, but they put their fair share of it out there because and I don't know that all of them are doing it in a malicious way. A lot of them are doing it because, again, they find something out. It seems at least plausible. It seems to agree with their current mindset. So they're going to put it out and maybe not research it quite as much. And then we, as the non-religious liberal sheep, will sometimes kind of fall for it and go along with it. So.
Well, and I think that's also too, like, part of this activism side is that we, as I said before, we tend to want to agree with people that agree with us, because in this community we form friendships and we form bonds, and we're like, oh, this person is on my side, and that makes me feel good, and you know, but we're just as susceptible to bad ideas as anybody else, and we're just as susceptible to, again, like, believing something that feels good rather than the hard facts. And also we might not have all the facts, and we hear sound bites, and we hear little, and we're all falling for the same things, and we like to think of ourselves as like, oh, I am totally don't have bias. I totally, and as soon as someone says they don't have bias, the first thing you should say to yourself, this person has bias.
Yes. Yes.
That's the first thing that should come to your brain. Because I have bias. Greg has bias. Like Greg and I align on a lot of things, but I'm sure if we sat down and had a couple of drinks and we were hanging out and we started having like a long-term conversation, we would find things that we don't agree on. Like, because that's people, but we would agree to disagree because a lot of the values we do hold align. Mm-hmm. That's more important. If you don't agree with me, well, that was on my show last week. We had I think Anton LaVey is a sexist. He doesn't. That is a disagreement we have. Are we aligned on this, a lot of the same things? Yes, but this is just a perspective that, two people have based on experience. Mm-hmm. And our perceptions. From my perception, I think Anton LaVey is a sexist. Well, doesn't think there is. I don't know. It's just a matter of perspective.
Yeah. And
that's all that matters. But are we aligned on the same things about developing secular values and being kind and want human rights and all those things and come from a more critical point perspective? That's where we're aligned on. So that little quibble over Anton LaVey should not be the deterioration of our relationship.
Yeah.
That's more important. Just saying, all of you in the atheist activist sphere, if you get into, okay, I'm gonna say this right now. I'm gonna have a hot take, motherfuckers. Okay.
All right. I'm gonna sit up for this one. Hold on.
Okay. All right. It's my show. I can do it. Okay. I might make this short. Okay. Listen. Okay. Just because someone disagrees with you on a particular point doesn't mean they're against you. Listen to them, hear their perspective, give a counter perspective, and come to a place of agreement to disagreement if a majority of your values align.
Yeah.
Do that, please. Because there's enough division in the world right now, and it'd be really great if those of us that care about, humanist values would align. Yeah. That'd be great. Yay, let's do that. Cool.
Plus, I think it'd be kind of boring if we all just agreed on everything. I think it'd be boring as hell because we all be sitting around going, yeah. That's right.
Oh my God, it'd be so boring. I'm always please disagree with me. Yeah. It'd be so boring if we just sat there and be we would verbally masturbate to each other and it'd be well, I agree with you. That's great. Okay, we got off on our very big brain ideas.
Yeah.
So terrible. Please do not do that. Okay, I'm going to shut this down because I have beef stew waiting for me.
Okay, and I have some sort
Greg,
of dinner.
When are you going to be on Recovering from Religion? What are you doing? Tell the people where you're going to be, what you do, how they can get in contact with you. Well, you just have to join. You just have to volunteer for the Atheist community of Austin. You'll get Greg.
Yeah, you will. If you're not tired of hearing my voice by the end of the show, and you are interested in kind of doing something in any capacity, and like I said, if you have aspirations to be a host on the show, if you think probably rightfully that you can do what I'm doing right now way better than I can, contact us. Absolutely. If you're more like me and you kind of like to be behind the scenes more often, we have positions there. Basically, we have a bunch of positions that you can participate in. And if you have a novel idea that we're not doing, then come talk to us about it and we'll see if we can't make it happen. As far as finding me, the only other thing I have planned to do as I hesitate to say the thing a online personality, because that's personality wise it's negotiable.
You're an online person.
I'm an
Your
online
presence
person.
is online.
There we
Your
go.
personhood is online.
Quite technically, yeah. The only other thing I have currently scheduled is the Black Non-Believers in the Cut show on the 18th. And we will see how that one goes. I'm not quite sure. It's kind of my first. This is kind of my training wheels, I guess, on being a guest on a show. So
you were like, I want to do more online stuff, and I was like, you come on my show, man.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to kind of get out there. I said this was a matter of comfort level for me, because this makes me completely uncomfortable to do this.
My cat. She's so demanding.
Yeah.
She's like, you've been talking too long, Mom. I went to your ACS.
I need attention now. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, she is the queen of the house, aren't you, Miss Catnips? Yes.
Yeah,
Catnips never clean.
That's the only thing I have online. The only other way you're probably going to see me is if you catch a show and I'm on crew cam. So
he occasionally calls in other names, like whatever you call. I'm like, that's
great.
Greg.
Never do such a thing. How dare you, Helen?
Well, we don't have a lot of the queue. He'll call in. So.
I will neither confirm nor deny that statement. That's all I'm going to say.
Like, okay, like it's like Fight Club.
I'm not going to talk real 1 and 2.
We're not going to talk about it.
So,
okay, so Greg, I'm going to have you on again. This is going to be a thing. So that's going to be a thing next week. I was supposed to have Neil, the 604 Atheist, on tonight, and he sends me a DM. He's like, "Hey, we still doing this thing?" And I was like, "I totally did not put you on the schedule." So he's going to be here next Thursday. I have no idea what Neil's going to talk about. And then Saturday, okay, so that's happening. And then next Saturday, also as well, is going to be Brentley, the punk apostate. He's also going to be on next Saturday. And this coming Saturday, who will be joining the ACA again, is Martin Robert. He will be on this Saturday talking about how to stay positive in a not so positive world. That is not the direct title. Do I feel like looking it up right now? No, it's just going to be talking about positive things and a world of chaos. So we're going to talk about that on Saturday. And next week, next Thursday night, is going to be Neil, the 604 Atheist. And then on Saturday, it's going to be Brentley, the punk apostate. So please like, subscribe, share. Follow me on my socials. I'm on BlueSky at Housebell666. I am on Instagram. I'm going to be deleting my Facebook account probably Sunday. But I'm going to have a FreeThinkers Fireside page so I can promote the show. And also as well, a lot of you people are still on Facebook, so I have to get guests. But I'm not going to be posting a lot of my personal crap or anything like that, because it is turning into the bad place. So, and as a queer person, I don't want to I'm going to be there to promote my show and promote recovering from religion and the atheist community of Austin. But that is it. I'm just doing promo work. I am not going to be on there as a person, because it is not conducive to me as a person, because it's the bad place. Because Mark Zuckerberg is terrible. He's a terrible person.
Although it might not
I'm
be
not
his.
like, this is my personal decision. If you stay on there, that's fine. It's just my personal decision for my own
I'm
mental
starting to
health.
think it might not be his fault though, because he might have just been the victim of a bad surgery, because I've heard he's had some penis replacement lately.
He did, and he also he tried to, like, you know, he threw out his back. So,
Yeah.
you know,
That,
to
I
do
mean,
self-fellatio. That's a problem to
yeah,
really think about.
and in the middle of a Wendy's, I think that's just maybe
I know, it's so sad.
some trauma manifesting in some way. But yeah, I mean,
It is
I don't
like
know.
yeah. So anyway, please share, please tell people to come subscribe to me because I love attention. Also as well, so like, subscribe, share, do the things, comment, do all those things. I will be back on Saturday with Martin Robert at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so please come watch Martin and I have a conversation. He is a big old sweet potato. Like,
Yes.
I am sorry, Martin. No, I'm not sorry. He is such a wonderful person. When I was going through shit, he was one of the first people that reached out to me, and he is just a wonderful, caring person. And I'm so glad he's going to be on the show.
Yes.
And then Neil's going to be on next week. And then on Thursday, and then on Saturday is going to be Brentley. So like, subscribe, do all the things. Also, Ember is going to be on RFRX this coming Monday, talking about issues with Christian nationalism and the trans community. So please check that out as well. So do all the things. Do
Yes.
all the things.
Right now.
All right. Everybody
right
have a good night. I'm going to go eat beef stew.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Mwah.